If you think back to, the summer of 2019, the whole world just sort of laughed when they heard the idea of the U.S. trying to buy Greenland.
Oh, absolutely. It was treated as a joke.
Right, like something out of a satire. It felt so absurd that you couldn't possibly take it seriously. It was just this bizarre political stunt that would blow over.
And that, according to the sources we've been digging into, is exactly the problem.
Uh-huh.
The fact that everyone laughed, it sort of masked something much, much more serious.
Okay.
Our deep dive suggests it wasn't a joke at all. It was more like a geopolitical confession, a huge warning flare about the state of American strategic thinking.
A warning flare. Okay, let's unpack that. We've been going through material that frames this as this single impulsive act that showed the world's biggest power, sliding away from actual strategy and into something the source calls, pretty starkly, performative imperialism.
Yeah, that's the key phrase. Confusing spectacle for actual strength.
So our mission today is to get past that initial punchline. We need to figure out what this whole farce really revealed about American power, how it hurt alliances like NATO.
And maybe the biggest piece, how it basically handed a gift to adversaries like Russia in a place as critical as the Arctic.
Exactly. So let's start right there with the basic misunderstanding. The difference between seeing Greenland as a strategic prize versus seeing it as just a commodity.
Right.
Why is Greenland actually so important? Because I think that perception at the time was, pretty flawed.
It was incredibly flawed. The popular idea, which is part of the problem, is that Greenland is just this huge, empty, icy place.
Expensive to maintain, yeah.
Right. But that completely, and I mean completely, misses its 21st century strategic value.
So why is its geography so critical now?
There are a few non-negotiable reasons in the analysis. First, just its location. It's vital for continental security.
You mean for a missile defense?
Exactly, for North American missile defense and for early warning systems. If a missile is launched over the North Pole, and that's the shortest route,
Right.
then Greenland's Thule Air Base is one of the first places to see it. It's a piece of hardware you just can't replace in that global security architecture.
So you've got airspace control, missile defense. That's pure geopolitics. What about what's under the ice?
That's the second piece. Beneath all that melting ice, and the melting is its own geopolitical fact, you have these vast, untapped reserves of rare earth minerals.
And that matters because of China.
It matters hugely because of China.
Right.
Right now, they dominate that market, and you need those minerals for everything from a smartphone to an F-35 fighter jet.
So for the U.S., having access to Greenland's supply is a huge strategic countermove.
A massive one. And then there's the third asset,
The shipping routes.
the transarctic shipping routes. As the ice melts, routes like the Northern Sea Route just become more and more viable. They cut thousands of miles off existing journeys. And Greenland, well, it controls the western gateway to those routes.
So this isn't empty land. It's a nexus of defense, resources, and future trade. And the sources are clear. Russia gets this. China gets this. Denmark obviously gets this.
Absolutely. The contrast, though, is how the American leadership at the time saw it. The president didn't view Greenland through a lens of strategic partnership or mutual security.
No.
He saw it purely as a commodity.
I like a building.
Exactly. Another asset to be bought, branded, controlled, like a hotel or a golf course.
And that really is the core of it, isn't it?
Yeah.
The source calls it the worldview of a casino magnate masquerading as a statesman, policy driven by impulse.
Yes. A simple calf transaction fantasy which proved the priority wasn't a decades-long strategic alliance. It was about a quick, personal win. And that thinking leads directly to the second and maybe the most damaging consequence, the betrayal of a key ally.
Let's talk about Denmark. This is a founding member of NATO, one of the most dependable U.S. allies out there. And the source material really goes out of its way to stress this. This is a country that has shed blood alongside American forces. They are deeply intertwined with the U.S.
And yet, look at how they were treated. When Denmark said no, politely, but firmly, to what their prime minister called an absurd and colonial fantasy.
Right.
The analysis shows the U.S. president didn't see them as a respected partner. He saw them as an obstacle or, a vassal who was supposed to just say yes.
So was the damage really that bad, though? I mean, you could argue it was just a throwaway comment that blew over. Did it really shake up NATO cohesion?
The source is pretty clear that it did, and it's because of the public nature of it all. The diplomatic fallout was immediate, canceling a major state visit to Copenhagen just because they wouldn't sell you their territory.
So it wasn't just some back-channel disagreement.
No, it was a very visible, very public tantrum on the world stage.
Which means the message it sent was Pretty hard to miss.
Unambiguous. The analysis says that American alliances were basically advertised to the world as conditional, transactional, and fragile. They told everyone that loyalty wasn't a two-way street. It was expected to be submissive.
And that's the chilling part, right?
Yeah.
It sends this huge negative signal across Europe, across the world, really, that American diplomacy, the bedrock of the whole system, could be completely derailed by something as small as a wounded ego.
Exactly. When you publicly insult a close NATO ally over an impulse buy, you do two very dangerous things. You create instability inside your own team, and you give your adversaries really valuable intel about how fragile your leadership is.
The predictability is just gone.
It was shattered, visibly.
And while the U.S. is busy creating all this diplomatic chaos, let's look at who was watching. And more importantly, who was benefiting.
Right.
The source sets up this incredible juxtaposition. While the U.S. leader was posturing, Vladimir Putin was planning.
And that contrast really defines the strategic vacuum that opened up. Russia was treating the Arctic with deadly long-term seriousness. The U.S. was engaging in spectacle.
So what were Russia's concrete actions? I mean, what were they actually building while this is all going on?
For years, Russia has been systematically militarizing its Arctic coastline. They've reopened all these old Cold War-era bases, places like Nogurskoye, and they're turning them into permanent year-round military hubs.
And they're putting advanced weapons there.
Oh yeah, advanced missile systems. And crucially, they're building the world's most powerful fleet of nuclear-powered icebreakers.
The icebreakers are so key, aren't they? They're more than just ships.
They're sovereignty markers, they're tools. If you control the icebreakers, you control the shipping lanes, especially the northern sea route. And Russia is asserting control over that route like it's their own internal waterway.
So Moscow isn't joking about Arctic power.
No, they're preparing for it with concrete, multi-decade investments.
So when the American president creates all this public chaos, insulting an ally, treating sovereignty like a yard sale, what gift does that hand to Russia?
It's a monumental gift of chaos. It's undeniable proof that the United States could not be trusted to act coherently or predictively in this critical region.
Right.
If the U.S. can be so easily distracted by an ego-driven whim, why would anyone rely on them in a serious geopolitical fight?
So it sounds like the analysis is that American leadership, which is supposed to be a stabilizing deterrent, was replaced by this chaos that basically invited expansion from a serious player like Russia.
That is the precise conclusion. The source argues the Arctic is visibly drifting toward Russian dominance, partly because America abdicated seriousness.
Abdicated seriousness.
Yeah. When you trade expert-driven diplomacy for short-term ego trips, you create a vacuum, and your competitors will be more than happy to fill it.
Which brings us to what might be the source's most profound point. The part that goes beyond just the leaders involved and looks at the structure of power itself. The resurrection of a 19th century imperial mindset, but without any of the competence you would need to actually pull it off.
This is where the analysis gets really essential. It suggests the Greenland thing wasn't just a political gaffe. It was a symptom of imperial decay. Past empires, even at their most aggressive, had a disciplined grasp of logistics, diplomacy, balance of power.
They did their homework.
They did. The Greenland attempt offered none of that. It was just bluster, humiliation, and spectacle.
So the desire for the benefits of empire, the spectacle, the big talk, but without any of the burdens like governance or respect or foresight.
It's the performance of empire without the competence.
Correct. The source even uses this metaphor of the Mad King, not as a personal attack, but as a framework to understand rule that's driven by impulse instead of reason.
And the analysis says this leader was allergic to expertise.
Right. And that combination, impulse over strategy, ego over reason, is just catastrophic in international relations.
So what did that ultimately mean for the rest of the world? When American power is so easily turned into a punchline, what perceptions were reinforced globally?
The list is long and the damage lasts. Observers around the world saw that U.S. commitments could literally vanish with a tweet. They saw that alliances were negotiable based on one person's whim.
That international law was optional.
Optional. And critically, that power had become personal and unpredictable, not institutional and stable.
And as you said before, that unpredictability is just poison in geopolitics. It's the ultimate accelerant of chaos. It forces every other country to hedge its bets. China watched this chaos and adjusted its own Arctic strategy. Russia moved forward with its plan. And Europe saw the fragility of its main ally and started quietly looking for stability elsewhere.
In institutions.
In multilateral structures, yes. The whole global order frayed because of this kind of conduct.
So in the end, the analysis concludes that Greenland itself was never really the issue.
Never.
The issue was that the machinery of American power, the very thing meant to stabilize the world, became an accelerant of chaos when put in reckless hands.
And that legacy is still shaping the region. The Arctic will absolutely be a geopolitical front line. Russia and China will continue their expansion there, and Denmark and Greenland. Well, after seeing how easily a core ally can be dismissed, they'll seek protection in institutions rather than personalities.
They'll trust structures because personal leadership proved so unreliable.
Right.
That is a stark and a lasting consequence. History might not remember the Greenland farce as a symbol of American ambition, but more as a symbol of American confusion. A time when leadership became performance and geopolitics became ego.
And the final stark warning the source leaves you with is maybe the toughest one to swallow. Empires don't always fall because of some big, decisive defeat on a battlefield. Sometimes they just fall from embarrassment.